Today I'm going to show you how to use the Shadow and Highlights Adjustment feature in Photoshop to help bring out the dark areas in a couple of photographs. But before we get started with Photoshop, let's go ahead and take a look at a few photos. This photo was taken on our quad last Halloween, and you can see that the quad is really brightly lit, the hallway is dark. So what the camera metered on was the bright background, and it made the person really dark so you can't see her. Well, I noticed that when I took the photo, so I asked her to turn around and stand against the wall so the bright sunlight wasn't behind her, and look how much better the photo is. Here's another example. So I took this photo and I noticed, uh-oh, she's really dark and the background is really light. So again, I asked her to turn around and face the other direction against the wall, and look how much better the photo looks. So the first lesson is, if you can avoid having dark pictures where you can't see a person's face, you should try that first. It's a lot easier to just take a second photo if you can tell that the first photo didn't turn out than to try to go into Photoshop and mess around with it and try to fix it. It's better just to get a good photo in the first place. So let's go ahead and open Photoshop. It's this little icon right here. It's blue and it says PS, and that should be on your desktop. I'm going to go to File, Open, and click on Computer. And your drives will look slightly different than this because this is my own personal laptop. But what you're going to look for is something called MHS Photo, and there's a P after it. This is called the P drive. So when you double click this, there's a couple of folders in here, but the one that you're looking for is YB 2015. When you open the yearbook folder, you'll see that there's Photoshop tutorials. And the one that we're looking at right now is called Shadows and Highlights. So let's go ahead and change our view to large icons, and let's try this one right here. So this photo was taken on I think it was Superhero Day during Homecoming. I'm not positive. So this photo is decent, but again you can see that the background is really light and they're kind of dark. This is almost okay as it is, but I think it can be improved a little bit. So what I'm going to do is go to Image, Adjustments, and down here on the list I'm looking for Shadow and Highlights. So what this window says is shadows on the top, highlights on the bottom, and the default is 50%. Now, most of the time 50% is way too much. So what I'm going to do is drag this back down to 0, so that's the original image, and I'm just going to move it up until I think that it looks pretty good. So I think this is pretty nice. You can see kind of their faces and their clothing are brought out a little more. If I move it all the way over here to 97%, they look really washed out, it looks really fake, it looks terrible. So we don't want to do it too much. On the other hand, at 0, they're a little bit too dark. So somewhere, perhaps 20s, I think looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK and save my changes, and that will be that. So let's try another one. Here, this was on Twin Day, and it's another hallway shot, so you can see that there's like a slash across this photo, and I think it's so distracting that I would not use this photo, which is too bad because it's really adorable. So let's see if we can fix it. So Image, Adjustments, Shadows and Highlights, and wow, that looks a lot better. 50%, I think it is making this girl's face look a little bit too bright, so I'm going to back it off a little bit and click OK, and I think that looks pretty good. So if I was saving this for the yearbook, I would go to File, Save As, and maybe I would call it Twin Day 1, and I would make sure that it gets into the correct folder and save it. And for the quality, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on 10, which is maximum, so we want it to be really high quality, and I'll click OK on that. So let's try one more. This one of Taylor Johnson doing pastels on the quad. And the problem with this photo is that the sun was kind of behind her head, so her face is in shadows. Let's see if we can go ahead and fix that a little bit. So Image, Adjustments, Shadows and Highlights. 50% is way too much. It looks super fake. So I'm going to start out at 0 and just bring it out a little bit at a time. And I think something right around there, around 13, looks pretty good. So you can see that for each image, this number is vastly different. So you really have to use your eye and use your judgment and make sure that you don't get it looking fake and bleached out, but you bring out the dark areas of the photo enough so that it looks good. So for this assignment, for you to get credit for this, what I would like for you to do is go to File, Save As, and go ahead and say Shadow and Highlights, and then put your name after it. I'll just put my name, Justine. And you can go ahead and save it right back into this folder that says Shadows and Highlights and click Save. So when I'm going through, oh, let's see, quality 10, yes, that's okay. So when I'm going through here and grading and looking that you've done this assignment, it will have your name on it. So I would like you to do all 3 of those. Go ahead and do this, the superheroes, the twins, and this pastels on the quad. So all 3, name all 3 of them with your name, save them to that folder, and that's how you'll get credit. All right, that's it for now.